pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic with which it stands, one nation, under God.
A year later, the message remains the same. America is united and stands together to face the future. And although the signs of the times may change, our colors never fade.
With liberty and justice for all.
KTRK is delivering some meals again. That service going out 3 days a week now. The news came after the charity's board of directors held its first meeting since stopping food deliveries last week, demanding answers to some tricky financial questions. Board members told Eyewitness News reporter Ted Oberg that they got the answers they were looking for.
While some KTRK meals are going out 3 days a week, one board member tells us the financial situation has not improved much, and he is trying to figure out why.
I've asked for a financial report on the organization.
Gordon Kwan is anticipating that report soon, but in the meantime is satisfied with how KTRK money was spent. KTRK stopped delivering meals temporarily last week. At that point, KTRK founder and CEO Carol Porter said the organization had only $30,000 and donations were down. She told us it was because Channel 13 reporter Wayne Dolcefino had called donors and those donors stopped giving. This morning, after a long board meeting, the board decided to blame the station as well.
If, in fact, Wayne Dolcefino has said these things to people, to donors, that has made them stop giving, that's a pretty serious issue.
Which donors have stopped giving?
We're not at liberty to discuss that right now.
We checked with some donors in the last few days. Fiesta Supermarkets is the only donor we've found who says they've suspended donations. A public affairs employee told us, with all the hullabaloo, we won't do anything in the near future. The store gave about $5,000 last year.
How much are donations down this year?
I don't think we really have much else to say right now.
The board of directors asked for an external audit and more financial data. They won't say when that may be ready. In Northwest Houston, Ted Oberg, 13 Eyewitness News.
Well, this television station released this statement this afternoon. I quote, KTRK TV, Channel 13, always operates with the highest ethical and journalistic standards and has a long tradition of supporting community organizations. Any suggestion to the contrary is wholly without merit. We've asked for and we welcome any and all information from KTRK that would contribute to the public's understanding of this organization, unquote.
Well, for some reason, I think for the first time this week, we had practically no percentage of rain. Is that right?
I know, the air is dry, the sun is out. It's simply a beautiful day here.
Lovely.
Let's start, though, by talking about what happened this morning. If you were watching the coverage from New York this morning, you probably saw some very windy conditions. That's because there was a hurricane that moved not too far from New York City during the morning. Tropical storm Gustav, yesterday's tropical storm, became a hurricane and zipped just to the east of New York City, or Long Island, during the early morning hours today. It is moving rapidly into the northern Atlantic Ocean, where it will become extratropical, meaning no longer a tropical storm. Right now it has maximum sustained winds of about 90 miles an hour, moving toward the Canadian Maritimes. It's just the opposite here. They have a lot of moisture up there with the storm. We have very little in our area. High pressure is ridging down into Texas, and that's bringing us dry air. Black on this map indicates dry air, and lighter colors indicate the presence of moisture. There is very little moisture in the southeastern part of Texas. It's going to continue that way for a little while. We have high pressure anchored out in West Texas. Low pressure in the Gulf. On the backside of that, we're getting northeasterly winds. That's what's helping to bring in the dry air. It's this low pressure that is our big forecast problem for the next several days, with areas of low pressure generally in the eastern Gulf of Mexico and the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. We could eventually develop some sort of tropical system out there. We depend on computer forecast models from the National Weather Service to indicate what's going to happen. Well, the models don't agree. One model, for example, sees a low pressure area developing here and moving off to the northeast. Another shows a low-pressure area developing here and moving to the north. And then there are combinations of those forecasts throughout, if you compare all of the other models. So nobody knows exactly what's going to happen out here. We're going to have to wait until the models start agreeing on a course of movement before we can forecast accurately what's going to happen late this week and early next weekend. Meanwhile, we'll go with the model we like best, and that's the one that shows a low-pressure area here developing and moving off to the northeast toward Florida. In Texas this afternoon, temperatures chilly in the Panhandle for this time of year, 73 at Amarillo, but it's 90 in Wichita Falls, 93 degrees in Houston. Also at Hobby Airport, it's 93, 91 at Galveston Field. 91 degrees at Tomball, 93 in Sugar Land, and 91 degrees in Palacios. Tomorrow, we could have a problem with ozone. That's what comes with a lot of sunshine and no rainfall. Otherwise, we're expecting pretty much the same kind of weather. Overnight lows in the low 70s, afternoon highs in the low to mid 90s, and the chance of rain will be negligible tomorrow, up to about 20% on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ed. Well, many businesses have taken a pretty big hit in the past year, the airline industry being a prime example.
But there is a flip side to all of that. Some companies have actually seen an incredible increase in profits since 9/11.
Well, our 13 consumer investigator, Nydia Hahn, joining us live now to explain. Nydia.
Well, Melanie and David, goes without saying that as Americans, we all feel a renewed sense of patriotism and a sense of security. And that's affecting a lot of industries. It's something consumers should keep a close eye on, too, because it can also affect where you should put your money.
And it has a stamp bracket, and the whole set is $15.
We have some bigger ones too, about that big.
Ron Kronberg's family has been selling the red, white, and blue to Houstonians since the 1950s. Sales have tripled ever since 9/11.
Obviously, it's been good business for a bad reason, but it's been heartwarming to see the outpouring of patriotism.
Right after the terrorist attacks, cell phone sales spiked too, thanks to consumers wanting to feel connected at all times.
So that if something happened, we could get a hold of each other quickly.
Unit 1 and Unit 2.
The security industry is also cashing in.
Our work right now is focused on petrochemical industry, pipeline companies, energy.
A recent study shows employees at 47% of the companies surveyed are demanding increased security. Even here at Channel 13, there's a more watchful eye than before 9/11. Security assessments and equipment can run anywhere from $15,000 on up to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Closed-circuit television cameras, alarm systems, metal detectors, their businesses are booming.
But according to financial analysts, there are other less obvious places to put your money, too.
A lot of the real estate companies have actually done well during all this, and from an investment standpoint, bonds and a lot of other things have actually fared amazingly well.
But perhaps more importantly, many Americans are realizing the best investments don't involve money at all. Just about everyone we talked to told us they're really concentrating on their family and their friends more than ever these days. One more thing, of course, some businesses and individuals have profited from 9/11 illegally. Watch out, consumer watchdogs are still warning against scam artists selling questionable products or collecting for bogus charities. You always have to be careful.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Nydia. Well, like an earthquake, the attacks on America fanned out all across the country, touching lives and causing panic. But now, a year later, how have lives changed here?
Well, Eyewitness News reporter Deborah Wrigley helps gauge the answer.
Life has changed a lot in a year. We are searched at airports, we are profiled before we get onto planes, and metal detectors are everywhere.
Those are the obvious ways in which an attack on home soil has changed our routine, our sense of safety. But for nearly every person out there, there are some small changes that have taken place that collectively add up to something big.
At a factory in Bel Air, pieces of red, white, and blue fabric are fashioned into American flags. It's only now that Kronberg's Flags is catching up with the increased demand for patriotic symbols. That's another thing that's different. We fly flags more. But for the owner of this company, something else has changed.
I always look to see where the exit is in a building before I get too far into it, in case I have to leave quickly. More aware of what's around me, pay attention more, and stay away from large public gatherings. You're just a little more paranoid nowadays.
Corporations certainly are. Chemical companies try to keep refineries secure. Those are obvious targets. Security consultants like Kevin Swale see more.
Sporting events, too, because there's a large concentration of people in a small area, and that's of great concern to the sporting industry.
There may come a time when we go through security screenings to get into a Texans game, an Astros game. Another way, routine might change. But at Houston schools, it already has. Cell phones and pagers are now allowed on campus.
One of the things that we were all reminded of on September 11th is how important communication was, and how important it was to be able to speak to people, loved ones that you wanted to contact to make sure that they were okay.
Another change, however small, in the way life is lived here and elsewhere, that add up to a reminder of how fragile life can be, and that life is best lived in the presence of others, the people who collectively form a nation. Deborah Wrigley, 13 Eyewitness News.
And that is Live at 5 for this afternoon. Stay tuned to ABC 13 for continuing coverage of 9/11, and we'll see you again tonight at 10.
For Dave Ward, Ed Brandon, and the entire Eyewitness News team, I'm Melanie Lawson. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good evening. And good evening, friends. We want to let you know that Eyewitness News at 6 will not be seen this evening so that we can continue to bring you ABC's coverage of the nation's 9/11 events. And that will, of course, include the President's address to the nation coming up tonight at 8 o'clock from Ellis Island. You'll also see the latest on our local stories, including tonight's tribute concert out at Miller Outdoor Theater, and the scare at Bush Intercontinental today that saw an American Airlines jet cleared of passengers and baggage, and 2 passengers questioned after a report of a possible weapon. Join us for Eyewitness tonight at 10, and now ABC News coverage continues.
Amid the horror and the grief, something amazing happened when the towers fell. All kinds of invisible walls collapsed too. In honor of those who died, and those who fought to save others, let's keep it that way. If we can't wish our loved ones back, let's wish for them this great legacy. Embrace America, everyone.
Saved another's life. He never ruled a nation. He never led men in desperate battle. And yet his whole life is a story of heroism, and his victory will thrill your heart. Christopher Reeve, Courageous Steps, next Wednesday at 10/9 Central on ABC.
Hello, friends. I'm Dave Ward. Back to ABC News in 1 minute, but right now hundreds of Houstonians settling in at Miller Outdoor Theater for a special tribute concert to remember the victims and the heroes of September 11th. And Eyewitness News reporter Jessica Willie is there live. Jessica.
Well, Dave, the crowds are slowly starting to gather here at Miller Outdoor Theater, and as you can see behind me, many folks are showing their red, white, and blue. This hour-and-a-half musical tribute gets underway in about 30 minutes. The headliners, the Houston Symphony, Yolanda Adams, and legendary Texas singer-songwriter Jerry Jeff Walker. We're told to expect this event to be very upbeat, very patriotic. In that vein, expect the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence, and many uniquely American songs. It all starts at 7 o'clock, and it's free. Reporting live from Herman Park, Jessica Willie, 13 Eyewitness News.
And be sure to keep it here for ABC's continuing coverage of the first anniversary of September 11th. And coming up on Eyewitness News tonight at 10, live reports on how the concert went, as well as from New York and Washington, D.C. Hello, friends. I'm Dave Ward. We are taking time to remember the cherished lives lost, the courageous rescue efforts, and the resilient survivors of September 11th. Since that horrific act of terrorism 1 year ago, what has emerged is an America with a tremendous will to prevail and to help one another. Our spirit, our strength, and our resolve are stronger than ever. Our nation has changed, but our mission has not. We will remember.